Hey, this is Stephanie Von Meyer with No Rest to Success. Today we're going to be featuring the founder of Creative Soul, David Van.
When I was younger, I used to cut all my friends' hair. When I was, I'd say 12, I got a really bad haircut from Supercuts, and I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to kind of mess with my own hair, so I asked my mom to get me like a clipper set, and I started cutting my own hair. And then slowly but surely, I would cut all my friends' hair and like the neighbors, and we kind of traded off, and one person would give me a ride to school and I would cut their hair. And when I finished high school, I wasn't sure exactly what I was gonna do. I went to school for accounting and business, and when I would get out of college, I would talk to my sister and kind of just complain, like, I'm just over this, you know, I just don't really want to do this whole college thing. And she said, you know, you should do hair, like you're really good at it, and I work in this salon and I could get you a job when you're done. And so that's kind of what got the ball rolling. And so I went to school and I did it, and I got to be a part of the design team. And we traveled and like did competitions, and slowly but surely I fell in love with like every aspect of hair. I was super nervous, but at the same time it was exciting. Like I just really saw how awesome this could be to go and to do something and to do it well and actually have people appreciate it. I remember there being a breaking point because I went to school with a friend, and I remember there being a breaking point and being like, I could actually do this my whole life. Like I could actually see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I've been a professional hairdresser for a little over 13 years. So I was 19 and I was working in Boca Park, and that's when I first started doing hair, right before I was 20. And now I'm 33 and I've been doing it ever since. I really love the feel of Vegas. And I think it's a really good environment for fashion in terms of people always want to be trendy, people always want to be up on style. I've lived here for probably over 20 years now, so this is just a place that I feel most comfortable with. It feels like home. Vegas feels like home to me. And so that's why I chose Vegas. And I think it's blowing up. I think Vegas is on the scene. Like we're right neck and neck with some of the big time cities out there. I don't think it's just doing your best when the occasion calls for it, but I think it's doing your best even when no one's watching. I think when you understand that whether you're on stage in front of 5,000 people or you're doing the most simple kid's haircut, that you want to do it with excellence. And that drives me, and along with seeing other people that are passionate about the industry. And just, I love when someone devotes their craft, and it devotes all their energy into their craft, and you know, really tries their best to do the best they have the capability of doing. That's what drives me. I remember cutting this girl's hair, and I remember her having really thick hair, and at the same time I needed to work through it, and it wasn't damp enough. So I had to spray it down. And so I went to spray her hair down, and I'm taking a bunch of sprays out of her hair, and I'm realizing this is a little different. Like something about this isn't right. And I noticed that there was like this different scent to it. And I was like, what's happening here? And so I was like spraying her hair, and I realized I grabbed the sanitizer bottle filled with alcohol instead of the water bottle. And I sprayed her hair with alcohol, and I was like, oh man. I lost complete hope, like she's not going to trust me at all, and that was a moment that I'll remember forever. The first time I traveled for national education was a big moment for me. I remember I was asked to fly to Hawaii to teach 10 classes, and I was really nervous about it. So I remember going to the airport, and I was with my director of education and being really nervous as we got on the plane, and even up until like we were boarding, I remember being really nervous. And then I just remember getting there And I felt like the moment, it was the first time I went to Hawaii too, so the moment that we got out of the plane, I was like, this is crazy. Like, first of all, this is the first time I'm in Hawaii and I'm actually getting paid to do this. Like, this is crazy. I'm gonna teach classes, and I just thought it was the most, it really struck me like, dude, this is like, I love this. I have the best job in the world. I just remember the gratitude on everyone's face, and I was just teaching them like how to formulate color. It wasn't anything like special or anything like that. I just remember them loving it and just having a really good time, and just experiencing that whole thing was just amazing. The thing I've realized is that it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to educate, and it mixes it up. I feel like when you do something that you're passionate about and you're able to spread that knowledge, it is truly better to give than to receive. Like, I don't think that I would want to do education all the time or 24/7, nor do I want to burn myself out and do things all the time. But I think that it feels so good to give back. Like, it feels so good to educate. It feels like something that, it almost feels like something I was supposed to do to a certain degree. But at the same token, I love being behind the chair. Like, I love just being silent and quiet and behind the chair too. So education is definitely something that I like a lot. And I love getting educated. I love learning something new. I love the idea of evolving. I think it's valuable to be behind the chair. I think it's valuable to be behind the chair and to educate at the same time, because you see both the spectrums. You get to see the problems that you run into as a hairdresser. You get to learn how to educate better. Like, even teaching a small class, you take a couple things that are like, oh, okay, I get it. I could have done this better, or I could have done that better. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of value in both. If you're educating 100% of the time and you don't work behind the chair, there's a chance that you could lose sight of how it really is to be behind the chair. I think education's good for that, to be refreshed, to be inspired. I think education's good for community. I think it's good to build teamwork, and it's good for everyone in the salon to come together and experience that, because not only are you learning from the educator, you might be learning from another stylist. I feel like if you don't evolve, you'll get left behind, you know? I know that even with me, like, I've been cutting men's hair for so long, but there's still things that I learned that I didn't know before to make it more effective, or to make it look better, or even with, you know, women's hair. You know, there's so many things that had I not have the resources, had I not have the classes, or even people in my environment teaching me in the salon, I wouldn't have gotten better at that thing. And I know even with that, there's so much further to go. You'll probably do hair for 50 years and die still knowing that there's a lot more to learn. I really like questions being asked. I like when someone's like, oh my gosh, I get that. So whatever you call that, that's what I like. I like the aha moment when someone gets it. They're like, oh my gosh, I get this. And you know, teaching a class, you're gonna find different levels. Someone's gonna be, not to put anybody on a level, but sometimes you're gonna find someone who's all the way up here and someone who's a junior stylist, a senior stylist, a junior stylist. And you're gonna, it's so nice when someone connects and is like, I get this. This makes sense to me. And so I like that about education. And like, I love how rewarding it is too. I know a little bit over 2 years ago, I wanted to do something. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but I was still excited about doing hair, but I wanted to do more in that industry. So I wasn't sure if it's like, okay, so should I full-time go out and be a national educator and just work with a big brand, or should I open a salon? I wasn't sure. So then it kind of just hit me like, I want to start my own line of tools. I love cutting hair. I love seeing changes, and I love the idea of having resources. You know, just like education is a resource. I like the idea of having a resource to do what you got to do. And so that's kind of how Creative Soul was started. It was birthed with an idea, and I was like, let's run with this. You know, this idea could be amazing, and you know, and I think if I didn't do it, I would have regretted that I didn't do it. Like, we're gonna start obviously with the shears and where we're at right now, but you know, in time we're gonna see where it goes, and we'll branch out and add different elements to it, maybe like a brush or a styling tool. One of the reasons why I wanted to do Creative Soul was my mom, actually, she lived a very poor life. My mom and my dad, they all immigrated over here from Vietnam, and we're Chinese, and they immigrated over here. And as a kid, I remember how hard it was, and I remember my mom going to work and being like, this is, you know, she worked graveyard, so she would start at 7 and she'd get off at 3, and she would always be like, man, you gotta work really hard, you gotta work really hard, Dave, so you don't end up like how we ended up growing up. And I just remember my mom saying, you have to put everything you have into everything you do. And I just remember growing up as a kid being like, man, you know, I gotta work really hard. And as I got older, I realized it struck. It was like, I have all the resources in the world to do something, and I better use it to my full potential. And so I said, if I'm just gonna stay behind the chair and do hair all the time, then that's fine. I'm gonna do the best I can do with it. But if I have the ability to do something else, then I should do it, because I have the resources, and I know that if my mom was here and she was, you know, she would give me some advice. Obviously, she's still alive, but if she was giving me personal advice, she would say, David, work as hard as you can and use all the resources that you can to do the best you can with excellence.